How does sustained self-inquiry reveal the ephemeral nature of the ego, and in what ways have you witnessed the interplay of emptiness and form emerging from this inquiry?
Nobody knows the answer to that question, I guess.
Well, I don't exactly know how to talk about it.
I'll give it a try.
All right, good.
This is something that slowly has developed over the last 9 or 10 years. I thought that I was doing self-inquiry more often than I actually was. And that I'd say, if I had to put a rough number, 70–80% of my attention or focused awareness was on the thought stream, and it seemed like a river.
Yeah.
But slowly, over time, less and less of my focused awareness was in the thought stream, and I started seeing my thoughts and my perceptions. Instead of as like a river running by, they were like little bubbles appearing out of like a bubble wand. You blow bubbles, and then I started noticing that first what happened, there'd be nothing, and my mind that recollects is not aware, and then all of a sudden there's a sense of space, and in that sense of space something arises. Could be a thought, could be a perception, could be a dream image, could be a reality image. Then after a while it fades away, but what's always there is the basement.
The basement,
the basement, or
the foundation.
the foundation of awareness, which is non-phenomenal.
No.
So the eternal subject, and even then the perception of subject, even that arises and falls. So what's really there is just empty awareness.
Right.
But it took me a long time to get to that, and the more I'm with that, the less disturbed I tend to get.
Yeah, I can relate very well, especially in terms of having it develop over the course of maybe 10 years or so.
There's no reason it should have taken that long, except that I was a very stubborn intellectual.
Yeah, exactly. We can't take our eyes off our thought distractions.
Yes.
So relating that back to what we were talking about, you're saying, or are you saying, that you can view all of the current events, political, economic, or whatever, as just sort of things floating along in the river, and you're the observer?
More or less. I mean, history is going to go on whether I'm here or not.
Yeah. Right.
History's going to be here whether I have an opinion on it or not.
Right. And that stream that's flowing by sometimes has, something like a leaf floating on it or some other thing floating on it. And that's perhaps my gut reaction to what I've just seen on the news.
Yes, but I've noticed that really there's a difference between the impression of what's going on when things are really rapidly going, like a squirrel cage going at 40 miles an hour, versus a more leisurely pace. I see that my mind, which is not my awareness, can really only take in one thing at a time. But if it flashes things rapidly, it seems like a computer, like multitasking, but it really isn't.
No, it's time sharing.
It's time sharing, exactly, which is probably where we get the idea of time sharing for computers, but be that as it may.
Yeah, that's where the term goes. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have this position at all even 3 years ago. But it can take me over during the day. It can take me over at night. And I used to be afraid of it. I thought it meant something was wrong.
What happened 3 years ago?
Wait, you say it took you over. Are you talking about your thoughts or the state?
No, the state of just empty awareness.
Good.
Sometime around 3 years ago, I don't remember a specific event. But sometime around 3 years ago, I stopped being afraid of what I thought was emptiness. And then it comes and goes as it will. It has nothing to do with my practice or my intention, or it just has developed on its own now.
Can I ask what made you afraid of emptiness? Or like, what were you afraid of?
Fear of annihilation.
Yeah, that's right. Death. Nothingness. Nothingness of the so-called self.
Yes.
And what has replaced that fear?
Calmness.
Promise?
No,
Calmness.
Calm.
C-A-L-M.
Oh, calmness.
Yes. And acceptance.
And acceptance.
Allowing what flows to flow, but not drowning in it.
And the fear of drowning in it itself is just an illusion. I remember I've had a long history of chronic pain ailments. And if I had a very bad pain that lasted more than 5 minutes, I was running for pain medicines.
Yeah.
Now I just stay with it. And there's part of me that wants to get up and run towards the medicine cabinet. And I just watch for a little while. And invariably, most of the time, within 10, 15 minutes, it's gone.
Mm-hmm. You mean the pain or the desperate urge to get the medicine?
The pain.
Oh, the pain. Good.
Most of the,
Great.
unless it's like an emergency, most of the pains come and go as well.
That's right.
So I see George is with us. We've actually started question 1.
All right. Are we discussing pain?
Well, that
Well,
came
it
up,
just
it
came up along
came
the
up
way.
in
No, we're
discussing-
discussing self-inquiry and its effect on our relationship with our ego and ourselves and the ephemeral
And the real.
and the real.
Is this a pain that starts up in the back and goes down through the leg?
No, it's isolated joints. I've had arthritis, autoimmune arthritis for 40 years. So different joints complain at different times.
I can relate.
Yes.
I'm sort of these days I sort of accept the pain. It rises and falls, it comes and goes. Sometimes it seems to be gone, but it's just part of my physical reality at this point. It's
Yes.
I mean, there are times when I may run for a pill, but mostly not.
Well, I was just trying to determine whether it was a sciatic pain or what.
Yeah, that's what you were describing. I've had that. It's no fun.
Right.
I haven't had it since I had my back operation.
Uh-huh.
They fused some things down to the region where that nerve is.
Well, back to the question.
Yeah.
Does the self-inquiry help deal with that process?
Well, my experience is it does, but sometimes it
Yes,
might
that's
take
what
a while.
He said it does or doesn't?
it does.
Yeah.
I thought he said that rather strongly. Yes.
And yes, and what gets better, if I can use that term, over time, is discovering that what you're observing, you discover more and more that it's not you, and because you is what's aware of it, as long as you're thinking about it, and but it takes a lot of looking to see, through the curtain. Not really, but but to see amidst change that something remains, and everything else is relative to it.
Yes, well, the question asks about sustained self-inquiry.
Yes.
But I don't think it requires sustained. I think it's immediately available.
Well, it is
Well,
immediately available, but it can be hard to stay there.
Oh,
Well, I
that's
think it's there. I think it's there all the time, but we superimpose.
Yes.
That's what the Vedanta says. The mind itself has an ability to superimpose on the experience of the real,
Yeah.
and
Do you
then
think
it's a
that-
matter of discrimination.
And when there are ripples on the water, you can't see the bottom.
Yeah.
a wonderful metaphor. Thank you.
Does anybody think that sustained self-inquiry is truly possible?
It's worth the attempt.
Hmm.
It's worth the attempt.
It requires a great deal of commitment to be present in the moment at all times.
It does.
And I think that that's a difficult thing for our psyches to do.
It
Now,
is.
when you're
It-
thinking about, when I first read this question, I thought it was talking about sustained through the years.
Oh,
And that's
Oh,
one
I
way of
thought it
looking
was
at it.
too.
But then I slowly started thinking, perhaps the question is it possible to sustain self-inquiry at all times?
Oh, that's a
Well,
good question.
I have an input on that as well.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
If I go too far, just tell me to go away.
No, you won't go too far.
we'll look forward to that.
If you leave me in the dust, I'll be thrilled.
Okay. Atmananda says that all phenomena point back to the self, and that's the self-inquiry.
Yeah.
But we, for whatever reason, in our free will, we can direct our awareness and focus it, which is attention, on other
Right.
things. If we focus it on Maya, then we see Maya. But the actual, you can't be aware of something unless you're aware of something. But the mind can take its filter and superimpose what it thinks. So it's not so much a goal to attain self-inquiry, it's removing what's not real.
Yeah, that's really what you're inquiring about is, what's really real. And sometimes it's what is it that doesn't change? What is it here all the time that, something came and went?
But can you get to the point where you're actually saying the pain is not real?
Not only, I don't have to say the pain is not real. I'm disengaged from my ego. My ego is screaming, run for the damn pill already.
Yeah.
And I just watch it happen. I watch that rise and fall. And then it's insistent.
Yeah.
It rises and falls. And after like 10 minutes, it gives up. And then the pain is gone.
We take our reactions that are so desperate to reduce our discomfort or pain to be a demand of some kind. But they have no real power over, just like no more power than any other thought. It's just that there's that fear that lies behind it, that you have to do something and you have to give it your attention to find out what you have to do to escape your discomfort. But you don't.
I have one last example that's kind of that I thought strange. Still, about 3 or 4 times a year, I'll wake up in the middle of the night in a panic state. My heart's tripping at 110, 115 beats a minute. And I'm just aching. I'm just under tremendous urge to jump out of my seat. And part of me, I see my ego mind in a panic state. And then I notice there's something watching it laughing.
Yeah.
And it's this disentanglement, this kind of like a non-phenomenological separation or space between the two that takes away some of the urgency from the panic state. And eventually, usually at the very worst case, 15, 20 minutes, it's gone.
Yeah. And
But once again, within 2 or 3 minutes, my mind is go take a pill.
Oh yeah, it comes back. It's a habit.
Does that help, Berta?
Yes. What's interesting to me, because I had a panic attack, I don't know, within the last, say, 10 years. And I'd never had anything like that before. So when it happened, I thought, what the hell is this? And, what's happening to me? And I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was just, and because I knew some people who I'd heard of them, and I knew some people who had them, I thought that must be what this is. But it was a very unpleasant state. But I knew half of my brain knew there was nothing wrong. There was no reason to be panicking. This was, something was happening inside doing this. And, with time it passed. What was really uncomfortable was when it happened to me on an airplane, because the other functioning part of my brain was saying, if you do something weird, they're going to have to restrain you or land the be pretty unpleasant all the way around.
Just one more reason to panic.
That's a kind of detachment from it.
So I was very anxious to not let it take over me. But
well, that means that you didn't completely identify it as you.
Proof that we're
well, I guess I got to the point where I knew there was really not anything wrong, even though I felt desperately that something's terribly wrong.
Yeah.
So there were no events in your life that triggered it, that you
not that
were
I
aware
can,
of.
not that I never was able to. The first time not that anybody really wants to know this, but I'll make it quick. My sister and I were on a beautiful trip heading to the redwood trees in California, and my sister lives in California, and we're driving together, my oldest sister, and we were sharing a motel room, and she turned off all the lights and had to have the room completely dark, no little blue lights or anything on. And when everything got dark, I started to panic and felt like I couldn't breathe. It was as if I was having claustrophobia because of the darkness. It was a weird sensation.
Yeah.
What I finally did, and this is so bizarre, again, that sense of not being able to breathe. And I didn't want to disturb my sister, and it's dark, and we're in a motel room. And I crawled out of bed, walked very carefully, and went to the door that leads to the outside and stuck my nose to the edge of the door where I could feel that there was fresh air outside. I couldn't open the door because I knew that would be loud and bother my sister. But I had that sense of there's air. And yet in the darkness, and of course I could breathe.
Of course.
But where does this come from? It was just weird. Anyhow.
Well,
you've heard my panic attack story, right?
What?
Well, I didn't want to.
No, I don't think I've ever heard it.
Yes, please.
Heard it.
Oh, well, it's a good story. Years ago, I woke up from a nondescript dream in a state of absolute panic. It was the worst moment of my life. I was afraid to move. I was afraid to close my eyes. I thought about killing myself, and then I thought, no, that wouldn't guarantee it. It ended. So I got some sweet food and drank some liquids, and like it says in the textbook, it goes away in 20 minutes. But I wanted to get at it. And I knew if I called my doctor, he'd say, I'll give you some medications, make an appointment to come in. We need to talk about this. And I didn't want to do that. So I called a famous brain scientist I know.
Of course you did.
Yeah. And she asked a very critical question, it turns out. She said, what was your dream like? And I said, it really wasn't like anything. It was just, colors and shapes. And she said, that's probably a sign. She said, if it was people and scenarios or a scene, you might look for something psychiatric. But with just shapes and colors, whatever's going on is probably further down the brain. And I'd look for a physiological cause. It turned out to be apnea.
Yeah. Right. I remember when you called and described it to me, And I said, "Do you have sleep apnea?" Because that's suffocating, can't get a next breath.
Yeah, yes.
And you also described being underneath, as if underwater or something, but covered up and not being able to get to the surface of it.
I don't remember that part of it, but that sounds consistent.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll get one of these dreams where I'm falling off of a cliff. And as you're falling, you're anticipating the end of the fall.
Yeah.
But do you ever land?
No.
Okay.
Generally speaking, and it's sort of like when there's something evil beyond the door, and you're trying to keep it shut, or you're trying to open it, one or the other.
Yeah.
And eventually that goes away.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's some deep-seated dream of some kind or another that is hard to counteract.
It's really primal in some way. I don't know. I mean, I've had the falling thing before, and that just the sensation generally wakes me up.
Yeah.
But I have also, on one of my flying dreams, I did in fact go head first into a cliff once, the side of a cliff.
Ow.
And I woke up. That's all.
Well, as I've gotten older, most of my dreams are more adventuresome, enjoyable encounters.
Mm-hmm.
They're not frightening at all. They're quite the reverse. I enjoy. It's like taking a hike through the forest and observing everything around.
I had what I considered a pretty wonderful dream, because my father had passed away some years back when he was 98. And in the dream, my brother and I were at our house in Dayton, where we all grew up, and our father was there with us, and we were working on some little project in the yard. And I turned to my brother and I said, "Wait a minute, Bobby's dead."
Yeah.
So I said, "You're right. Well, there's something wrong here. He's dead." And so I said to my brother, "Well, I'm going to talk to him about this." And so I went over to my father and I wanted to ask him a question like, "How come you're here?" And I woke up before I was able to ask him. And I was so disappointed, because it was so nice to have him there with us.
Yeah.
Strange.
It is strange.
How are we doing with the question here, Luna?
Yeah, sorry.
Let's ask
I
Paul.
actually wandered a little ways away from it, or what?
No. All of this is a form of sustained self-inquiry, and actually the stories are great. I mean, I think it's much better to learn through discussing stories rather than something too abstract. And in fact, what are we doing when we're doing self-inquiry? We're having a dialogue with ourselves and looking back on the stories that we tell ourselves and have already happened to us. And we see that each one of those stories is something that has a beginning, middle, and end, and it has happened. And it shows that since that is a part of what we call the us, the ego itself is ephemeral. Mm-hmm. And the important thing there then is to see that the ego is not the true I, that the true I, which is not ephemeral, is actually, beyond these things. And so these forms of self-inquiry that basically wipe away and, deconstruct the ego actually help us to get to the eternal I.
Yeah, it is a path of of negative, whatever it's called. What is the path called? The negating. It's a path of not this, not this, until you.
Neti.
Yeah, until no. Well, there's another name,
Yeah.
but in the Western.
Neti is Arabic, I think. I mean,
Sanskrit.
Sanskrit.
Via negativa.
That's it. Well, that's one. Yeah, there's another one too, but via negativa is precisely correct.
Are you thinking of? I mean, like
I'm thinking of
cataphatic as
yes.
opposed to apophatic.
Yes, that's it.
Definitions, please.
One is additive, one is subtract.
Yes,
you do the truth by trying to see it more clearly, or you perceive the truth by trying to see through all the things that aren't it until you can see it.
And which is which? I've never heard either of these terms.
Well,
they're typical in religious scholarship.
Yeah. But since I don't use them very often, I often have to look them up to remember which one's which. But kata should tell me, is specific. I should know those.
Is no.
Yeah.
Cataphatic is when you have a pet cat and it needs to go on a diet.
Or it needs to be a medium to deliver a divine message. As in prophet, I guess. Never mind about that. Cataphatic.
But
oh yes, of course.
But more seriously, apophatic is just the path of yes, and cataphatic is the path of no.
Right. It is that simple.
So if you want concrete examples, the former would be the path of I see God in the light, and the latter is God is not this, God is not this, God is not this. So he must be that. To a certain extent, Descartes, Descartes gets a lot of flack in spiritual circles, but he was a believer, and his path was the cataphatic path. He was stripping away everything that's not God and stripping away all of these things that we think of as the I. And he can't really be held too responsible for his uses later on, because that wasn't his intention.
No, I mean, I remember reading it and saying, hey, this guy's really on a serious inquiry here.
Yeah, what is it you cannot doubt? I mean, you can doubt this, you can doubt that, but is there something that you cannot doubt?
Yeah, exactly.
That was a serious question. And
it's a very serious question, and important too. One thing that came up, Berta, I think you said that, was it when you had a panic attack one time that you laughed? Was it a panic attack that you were laughing at, or during? It doesn't matter what it was.
I remember feeling how ridiculous it was, because I knew there wasn't really anything wrong.
Well, yeah, I think laughing is really important. I know one of the things that I've changed along the way is, things like dropping something, and instead of being annoyed, I laugh. I laugh at it, because what did I think? That I couldn't make a mistake? It's like these things happen. They're just things happening. And you don't.
I would like to distinguish between categories of these things, because there are things that happen to you in your dream life that seem to forebode serious medical complications that need to be addressed.
Can be, yeah.
Like, for instance, fever. And, people go to the emergency room all the time because they have something like that. and then how close is that to an imaginary pain that is really not real?
I'm a little lost here. Can you?
There is a physical phenomenon that we see as connected with the fever.
I mean, we have thermometers to measure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and it's measurable. It's sort of objective because that little device, that thermometer device, will respond
well,
to.
like the symptoms of that you have with forms of what's the disease that people have hereditarily?
There are a bunch of them.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about
What's the
diabetes
symptom?
or schizophrenia.
Like
Hemophilia or
well, just the ordinary one that so many of our older age get. We
Dementia?
become diabetic.
Diabetic.
Okay, diabetes.
not hemophilia, but right.
And is that a separate category of things from the things that are seem to be more or less imaginary?
Well, it's as real as the pain when you have a thorn in your hand.
Yeah, right. I mean,
The
there's
sensation.
things that cause pain that are very closely connected to a medical condition that needs to be tended.
Well, yeah, yeah.
As a warning sign, it's telling us something's wrong.
Yeah.
It needs to be
Yes,
I've had that kind of pain.
addressed somehow.
and that's a different thing than these more or less illusory pains.
Well, a
that
heart
can
attack
be-
won't go away in 15 minutes.
Right.
Right.
The pain may be just as ephemeral, but the damage is real.
But this is the question, isn't it? What is real and what is not?
Yeah,
Well-
that is the question.
Coming from the medical field, if the body is in that much dire extremes, there is no separation of awareness and body. The awareness directly deals with it and you do something to take care of it. Call 911. But the
Right.
ego is out of the question.
Right.
The pains that aren't so bad, what makes them intolerable is the ego component.
Right.
If the body component is that severe, the ego is bypassed.
But we could say, if we really wanted to get very, very deep on this, you could say, does the body even exist at all? Or
Well,
is it a
you
figment of
can.
your imagination?
No, you can say that.
Yeah.
And in fact, you can say the same thing about pain. You know,
Yeah,
it's just a sensation. And how do we know we have a body? Through our sensations. Our body is a bundle of sensations. We can look at it. We can, we have sense of touch. We've got sense of heat and cold and all those things. And we say, that's proof that we have a body, but really it's just proof we have a bundle of sensations.
Except there are dead bodies that don't have those sensations, but they're still bodies. They're just dead.
Yeah, but we don't have that. We don't have an experience of a body without sensation. I mean,
you can see it and poke it and see that it's.
I mean, it just seems that there's two different categories of what would be painful that need to be treated differently.
Well, sure.
And what are those categories?
Well, one of the categories is of course something that is life-threatening.
Yeah, if it's extremely strong or persistent, it won't pass in a few minutes the way a lot of things do.
Like if you were in a car wreck,
yeah,
and you needed medical attention, I don't think the attack of thinking that the pain is illusory is exactly the approach to take.
No, it's not meaningless.
So
But
that's one category, but the other category you refer to.
And the other type is a pain that's brought on by some more psychological anomaly in believing something is real that isn't, or things like that.
Yeah, but psychological pain is usually the feeling that I have to get away from this.
Yeah.
There's some disturbance, and I have to make it go away, or I have to escape it. Maybe a shot of whiskey would be good. I mean, it's the psychological pain is mostly the fear of it and the feeling of desperation to make it stop.
Yeah, a panic attack is a different thing than an elephant just sat down on my leg.
Yeah. But there is psychological pain and there is physical pain. They have a lot in common. But the distinction is meaningful. Because a lot of the psychological pain is not always inevitable. But the particular injury to the body is pretty much going to produce the pain.
Well, yeah, it usually goes away when you get past the psychological problem that you're having.
Well, you hope, yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, it won't go away until you've.
So we're dealing with two categories: corporeal pain and non-corporeal pain.
Yeah, right. But they're both pain.
They are both pain.
Yeah,
but
there's a
are
reason.
either one of them real?
Oh, well.
Well, they just
What is
need
real?
Yeah,
well, I mean, that's the question. What is real? And
the experience is always real. But what we attribute the experience to may not be correct.
What is objective reality? Yeah.
Or is it the ego having an experience on its own? I mean, if we're gonna talk about what's real and what's not, therefore we don't really know what is real. We don't know whether the corporeal experience is actually happening.
Well, I know I had to go to the emergency room because of dehydration.
Well, I'm not negating that, but I'm saying, is that actually happening in a corporeal space? Or is it happening in a non-corporeal space, but you're perceiving it as corporeal?
Yeah.
I'm not negating physical pain at all.
I'm not arguing
saying the nature of reality.
I was just describing the
Well,
differences. Some things that cause pain need to be treated.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And others don't. Yes.
But that's different from the spiritual or philosophical inquiry about reality.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly shift into, referring to Plato when you have a terrible pain.
So we read the next question, so we're all thinking about it for next week.
Well, we can.
I'm ready. Propose that question.
I can read it. In the midst of profound meditative absorption, how do you perceive the dissolution of conventional notions of time and space? And what implications does this have for your understanding of the eternal present? Probably not something you'll be able to solve in a minute and a half. So
no, but it is a meaningful question.
Oh, yes.
It kind of borders on the one we just finished talking
about. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's rather somewhat similar. How do you perceive the dissolution of conventional notions of time and space?
Well, probably
if you can do that, I guess.
Probably.
Well, everything borders on everything, but I wouldn't say that they are the same. I'm looking to take this in a somewhat different direction.
Yeah.
Well, they're concepts after all. We're not married to these concepts.
and they come and go.
Right.
And in inquiry, something that seemed, very opaque can lose its opacity. If you see something clearly, there's a sense in which you have seen through it.
That you've seen through it, you said?
Yes.
Penetrated its deepest meaning.
Well, yeah, or yeah,
Realize its irrelevancy.
Yeah, realize it's really not blocking your vision of anything important.
Well, I would say, that there's some kinds of pain that are really warnings to you.
Of course.
And they're given to you for a purpose.
Well, something is out of balance, unharmonious.
That means you're out of balance.
Yeah, so you could say something's wrong, but something is certainly different and not in harmony. There's an imbalance of some kind.
Well, if you get hit in the eye by a baseball, that's that is not of the illusory psychological nature so much as it is quit poking yourself in the eye.
Well,
poking yourself in the eye is designed to teach you something, facilitate growth, and then poke away.
Good point.
Well, but it's still an awareness that contains a sensation, and including what we call pain. And if we're fortunate, we might get a little bit of lag, a little time gap in there before the mind starts telling us what it's all about. But we may need to hear the mind if it's a medical condition, but that's, I'm talking about.
So at any rate, there's differences in talking about time and space. One automatically blinks the eye when something.
If you have enough time, if it's not moving too fast.
Yeah, if something is putting it in danger.
Sure. But that's instinctive, and that's conveniently there. I'm glad it's there, but it's not conscious. You could say the body is conscious in some sense, but we don't see the blink arising. We just notice that it just happened.
No, and we're very thankful that it did.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of things like that.
Right.
Breathing is a good one. Well, anyway, we're not going to penetrate and exhaust this question.
Yeah.